Right now, the head of the International Energy Agency has called what is happening to global energy supply the greatest threat to global energy security in history. And most people, sitting at home watching the pump prices tick upward, have absolutely no idea how close the edge truly is. But after watching this video all the way through, you will know exactly what to do about it. And the final few items on this list are the ones almost nobody is talking about. So stay with this until the very end, because those last items alone could change everything for your household. The world is not ending, but it is getting louder, and as families everywhere feel the pressure building from recession fears, political instability, wars overseas influencing everything from fuel prices to supply chains and a cost of living that refuses to lighten, the question that matters most is a deeply personal one. The Middle East conflict this year, including the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, has led to possibly the largest ever supply disruption in the global oil market. The price of Brent crude and gasoline prices have spiked more than ever. Saudi Arabian officials have estimated that if fossil fuel supply disruptions last until late April, oil prices could jump to $180 per barrel, which would increase average United States gasoline prices well above $6 per gallon, while Australian global financial services provider Macquarie Group forecast that if the restrictions last through June, oil prices could spike to $200 per barrel, which would drive average United States gasoline prices to around $7 per gallon. Fuel price spikes also drive up the price of food, because in addition to fueling farm equipment and the trucks that transport food to market, fossil fuels are a primary feedstock in the production of fertilizer, often accounting for as much as 80% of the cost of production of growing crops in countries like the United States. For fuel importing economies, the effect is that of a large, sudden tax on income, and that tax is landing on your grocery bill, your electricity bill, your commute, your heating costs, and eventually your rent. And the only people who escape it are those who prepared before the gates closed. So here, right now, is the list, all 23 items, each one chained to the next, building a system of protection layer by layer, starting with the most urgent and immediate things you need today, and moving toward the deeper, longer-term strategies that will keep you insulated no matter how long this crisis runs. Item number 1 is approved fuel storage containers, specifically military-style steel jerry cans. And the reason this comes first is that everything else on this list either stores, generates, or replaces fuel. And if you want to buy fuel now while it is still available and before prices rise further, you need the right vessel to hold it safely and legally. Any gas station will sell plastic containers that will store liquid fuel safely. But military-style jerry cans are also excellent because they have a high capacity, stack well, and they are very robust. A jerry can is a robust portable container designed for transporting and storing liquids, especially fuels like gasoline and diesel. And originally developed for military use, the design is now widespread due to its durability and convenience, with most models made of metal or high-density plastic featuring secure caps and handles to prevent leaks and spills. Use a heavy-duty, self-closing metal safety can marked UL, which stands for Underwriters Laboratories, as these are built to withstand fuel vapors and are easy to spot as approved. And plastic cans with UL labels work too. But always check local codes for container size limits, as many areas cap individual cans at 5 gallons. Item number 2 is fuel stabilizer, which is what transforms a can of gasoline from a perishable liquid into a year-long or longer energy reserve. And this is the item that almost nobody thinks about until it is too late. Because while your first jerry can is sealed and protected, your second one already has stabilizer in it. And together they give you a rolling fuel buffer that does not degrade. The gasoline you buy today is not built to last. An untreated regular gasoline sitting in a basic can, or even your car's tank, starts turning into a gummy, engine-clogging mess in just 3 to 6 months. Using fuel stabilizers can extend gasoline's shelf life up to 12 to 24 months, as stabilizers slow down oxidation and evaporation processes. And it is essential to add stabilizers immediately after filling the jerry can. A quality fuel stabilizer, like a STA Bill or Seafoam, is essential because it chemically slows down the oxidation and breakdown process, keeping your fuel fresh and potent. Gasoline stabilizer additives are designed to be periodically added to your stored fuel to prevent natural deterioration of its ignition properties, and you simply add the stabilizer to your gasoline within a year, mix well, and you are ready for another year, because it generally needs to be done every year and not just once. Item number 3 is a supply of stored diesel fuel. And here is the critical distinction that separates informed preparers from those who will be stuck. Because diesel is simply more stable than gasoline, takes longer to degrade, and powers a wider variety of the tools and machines that matter most in a long crisis. Diesel fuel generally has a longer shelf life than gasoline, and when stored in sealed jerry cans, diesel can remain usable for 6 to 12 months, though diesel is less volatile but can suffer from microbial growth and water contamination over time. And to extend diesel's storage life, users often add biocides to prevent microbial growth, with properly treated diesel potentially lasting up to 18 months in a jerry can. Diesel wins for long-term stability and lower volatility, but gasoline is easier to find and works in more small engines, and the best preppers store both. Item number 4 is a dual fuel or multi-fuel generator. And while your jerry cans are storing fuel for later use, your generator is what converts that stored fuel into the electricity that keeps your food cold, your lights on, your communications alive, and your family safe during grid failures or rolling blackouts that are becoming an increasingly real risk as energy systems buckle under the weight of this crisis. If you want to be truly prepared, you should not be choosing between solar and gas generators, but marrying them, and a hybrid power strategy combining a dual fuel generator with a solar power station creates a setup that is virtually fail-proof. Traditional gas generators are quickly becoming tactical liabilities in the current environment because the noise they produce is a beacon and a major concern for household security, while fuel scarcity will be an immediate issue making long-term energy independence difficult. Item number 5 is a portable solar generator, sometimes called a portable power station, and this is what takes over the moment your diesel or gasoline supply needs to be conserved. And while your dual fuel generator burns through stored fuel, your solar station is silently recharging from the sun at zero cost, meaning these two items together create a system where one is always restoring what the other is spending. Portable power stations have revolutionized emergency prep. And unlike the noisy, vibrating machines of the past, these are essentially massive, high-tech batteries equipped with advanced inverters and charge controllers. Built-in EMP intercept technology adds an extra layer of resilience that most systems do not offer. And solar power means no fuel runs, no fumes, and renewable energy from the sun, while stackable expansion batteries let families build serious capacity over time. Unlike kerosene, gas, and diesel burners, batteries do not emit harmful exhaust that experts have linked to health detriments at every stage of life, making the solar generator the cleanest, quietest, and most fuel-independent item on this list. Item number 6 is solar panels, the physical panels that keep that portable power station charged without spending a single drop of fuel. And while your power station is running your essentials, your solar panels are continuously harvesting the one energy source in this crisis that no military conflict, no blocked strait, and no panic buying crowd can take away from you. The Iran conflicts have bolstered the necessity for renewable energy, as solar and wind power can reduce vulnerability to external supply and decentralized power generation that offers greater autonomy from global energy markets. And with fluctuating oil prices, renewable energy has become significantly more cost competitive. Item number 7 is propane tanks and a propane-compatible cooking stove. And here the chain gets deeper, because while your solar system powers your electronics and lights, propane handles your cooking and heating with a fuel that, unlike gasoline, does not degrade over time. Propane will last indefinitely, and 60 gallons of kerosene in sealed barrels on dollies is another excellent layered option, because kerosene keeps for years and does not off-gas like gasoline. Propane is relatively straightforward to store because it can be held in propane storage tanks in both large and small quantities. And different sizes are available depending on your supplier, with some locals even allowing mass long-term fuel storage of propane. And critically, propane is versatile and can be stored safely for the long term without deteriorating. Item number 8 is kerosene, specifically a kerosene heater and a kerosene lantern, and this is where the old technology turns out to be the survival technology. Because kerosene has powered human civilization through countless crises, it burns cleanly, it stores reliably, it is energy dense, and it requires no electrical infrastructure to use. Kerosene is very dense in energy and holds almost 50% more energy than propane. And since kerosene is readily available under normal circumstances, you will not have any problems locating and purchasing large amounts of it at reasonable prices before an emergency hits. Fuels like kerosene or heating oil are more stable and can last up to 1 to 2 years when stored properly. And combined with your propane and your diesel, you now have 3 separate heat and cooking systems that back each other up, meaning the failure or unavailability of one does not leave you helpless. Item number 9 is a wood gasifier, and this is the item that will truly shock you, because it is not new technology at all. It is actually over 100 years old, and it powered a staggering number of vehicles during a global fuel crisis once before, specifically during the Second World War. You can learn how to make free motor fuel at home using wood, a process called wood gasification, which is a technology that powered over 1 million vehicles during World War II. A wood gasifier works by heating wood or biomass in a sealed, oxygen-limited chamber, which produces a combustible gas called wood gas or syngas, composed primarily of carbon monoxide and hydrogen. And that gas can then be used to run an internal combustion engine, a generator, or a cook stove, meaning if you have access to any wood at all, you have access to fuel. Wood gas can be made cheaply, and you have a renewable feedstock supply available if you have any land with trees. And even in an urban setting, wood pallets, scrap timber, and garden waste can all serve as feedstock, making this one of the most quietly powerful items on this entire list. Item number 10 is a twig-burning camp stove, sometimes called a biomass rocket stove. And while your wood gasifier handles the heavier energy needs, a compact biomass stove handles cooking at the most basic level, meaning even if everything else runs dry, this stove can boil your water and cook your meals using nothing more than dry sticks from your backyard. In a fuel crisis, twigs are free and abundant, and ultra-compact, high-performance portable survival stoves are available that harness this fact. Item number 11 is a hand crank or solar-powered emergency radio. And while your cooking, heating, and electricity systems are all covered by items 1 through 10, your information supply is just as critical as your fuel supply, because in a fast-moving crisis, what you know about what is coming next determines whether you act in time or whether you are always one step behind. This environment underscores the necessity of personal preparedness, not to resist, but to maintain autonomy and safety regardless of external pressures, and a hand crank radio that requires no battery or electricity gives you access to government emergency broadcasts, weather alerts, and energy rationing announcements even when the power grid is completely down. Item number 12 is a hand pump water filter. And this is the item that protects your most fundamental resource, because as fuel prices spike and supply chains buckle, municipal water treatment facilities that run on electricity and diesel can't operate. And having a gravity-fed or hand-powered filter means you can draw from rivers, rainwater catchment barrels, or other non-municipal sources without risking your health. Food is just one component of readiness, and a comprehensive preparedness kit that includes water, first aid, and communication tools must be paired with your food storage. Item number 13 is a rainwater harvesting system, and while your hand pump filter handles water purification, a rainwater collection system collects it without you spending a single drop of fuel or electricity, using nothing more than your existing roof, a gutter diversion, and a sealed storage barrel. And this transforms rain into a genuinely free and fuel-independent resource. You might also set up a rainwater collection system, or run a pipe to a nearby river and let the current bring it to your home. And rainwater harvesting has been practiced on every inhabited continent for thousands of years, is legally permitted in most regions of the world. Item number 14 is long-life freeze-dried food. And here is where your physical resilience becomes complete, because all the fuel, water, and power in the world means nothing if you run out of food. And freeze-dried meals address this directly with a shelf life that defies conventional logic. Most quality freeze-dried kits last 25 to 30 years when stored properly, which means you can buy once and have peace of mind for decades. In a power outage, simplicity matters, and freeze-dried meals that require only boiling water rather than full cooking make the most sense. And when you combine this with your twig stove and your propane supply, you have a complete no electricity cooking and eating system. Item number 15 is a supply of staple foods bought in bulk, specifically rice, dried lentils, oats, salt, cooking oil, sugar, and raw honey. And while your freeze-dried meals are the long game insurance, your bulk staples are the daily buffer that keeps your household fed without making a single fuel-burning trip to a store. Raw honey has an incredibly long shelf life and contains numerous vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants, and it has been used for centuries as a natural remedy for wound healing due to its antimicrobial properties, meaning it serves double duty as both food and medicine in a supply chain crisis. Focus on filling gaps in your non-perishable food stockpile, ensuring you have at least a 5-day supply per person, but ideally more. And remember that rice and canned goods are likely to be the first targets in a new supply rush, so doubling up on these items during regular shopping trips can build a crucial buffer. Item number 16 is a seed bank, and this is the item that turns you from a consumer of food into a producer of food. And while your bulk stores and freeze-dried meals are covering weeks and months, a seed bank covers years. And the reason this is so powerful right now is directly linked to the fertilizer crisis unfolding simultaneously with the fuel crisis. Brazil is almost entirely dependent on imported fertilizers, with nearly half of its supply transiting the Strait of Hormuz. And given that Brazil accounts for nearly 60% of global soybean exports and is a major exporter of corn and sugar, a sustained fertilizer shortage or price surge could compel farmers to reduce usage, causing a drop in crop yields with significant implications for global food security. A seed bank of open-pollinated, non-hybrid heirloom seeds for vegetables like tomatoes, beans, squash, kale, carrots, and radishes requires no fertilizer, no fuel-powered machinery, no supply chain, and no ongoing purchase. And once you have it, you have the biological raw material to feed your household from your own soil indefinitely. Item number 17 is a composting system. And this is what replaces the fertilizer that is becoming scarce and expensive globally, because compost made from kitchen scraps and garden waste is a complete, free, and renewable soil amendment that improves crop yields without any of the petroleum-based inputs that the commercial fertilizer industry depends on. Fertilizer shortages are raising concerns about future crop yields across South Asia, home to nearly 2 billion people, and beyond. And the people who understand this early enough to build their own closed-loop soil fertility system at home will be producing food cheaply while everyone else is paying inflated prices for it. Item number 18 is a bicycle with a cargo trailer or cargo bags, and this one is so simple that most people overlook it entirely, but in a crisis where fuel costs $4, $5, $6, or $7 a gallon in climbing, every single trip you can make by bicycle instead of by car is real money saved, real fuel conserved, and real independence maintained. Fertilizer shortages could cause global food prices to increase significantly, and higher costs for diesel, fuel oil, jet fuel, and associated shipping will lead to rising prices for most products, meaning the less dependent you are on a fuel-powered supply chain for your daily necessities, the less you're exposed to every ripple of the crisis. A quality cargo bicycle with panniers or a trailer can carry up to 100 kilograms of goods, can cover 30 to 50 kilometers on flat terrain in under 2 hours, costs nothing to operate, and becomes more valuable every single day that fuel prices rise. And the math is brutal in its simplicity, because zero fuel use means zero fuel cost. Always. Item number 19 is a comprehensive first aid kit combined with a personal supply of critical prescription medications for at least 90 days. And here is the chain that most people miss, because when fuel prices spike and supply chains fracture, medical supply chains fracture with them, and hospitals and clinics that run on diesel-powered backup generators and fuel-dependent delivery systems become strained. Do not forget medications, first aid supplies, and hygiene products, including feminine care items and trash bags for sanitation, because these are among the first categories to experience supply stress when logistics networks are disrupted by fuel shortages or rationing. Item number 20 is physical cash in small denominations stored securely at home, and this is the item that most modern households have completely abandoned in the era of digital payments. But in a crisis where fuel shortages lead to power outages, and power outages take down digital payment terminals, and digital payment terminals go dark in grocery stores and pharmacies, the person who has physical cash is the person who can still buy what they need. Digital-only finance without backups is a problem, and in regions across Asia and Europe, where fuel shortages are already creating economic disruption, the reliability of electronic payment systems during grid instability events is being questioned at government levels. Item number 21 is an insulated, earth-sheltered, or well-insulated food and medicine storage space, sometimes called a root cellar or a cool pantry. And this is the ancient technology that was quietly solving the refrigeration problem for thousands of years before electricity existed. And it is coming back into powerful relevance right now. A root cellar works on the principle that soil temperature at a depth of around 1 meter remains relatively constant year-round at roughly 10 to 15 degrees Celsius, which is ideal for preserving root vegetables, cured meats, fermented foods, and even some medications. And it requires no electricity, no fuel, and no moving parts, ever. Backup power is not about luxury. It is about keeping food safe, lights on, and life steady. But a root cellar or well-insulated cool pantry makes you dramatically less dependent on backup power for food preservation in the first place, creating a food storage system that costs nothing to run and cannot fail due to a power outage. Item number 22 is a wood-burning or multi-fuel rocket mass heater or wood stove, and this is the item that anchors your entire heating strategy to the one fuel source that is genuinely local, renewable, and immune to global oil market disruptions. Everyone should store as much firewood as possible, because you can never have too much firewood when things go wrong, especially those who live in cold winter climate zones. Wood should be kept in a dry area, covered to keep it out of the elements, so it can dry properly and stay that way. and it should be kept off the soil by elevating it up off the ground, even if storing it in a shed. And it is recommended to keep all wood near your home for easy access, but not inside your home, bringing in enough for only the day or evening at a time, while also allowing for proper air circulation by keeping it up off the ground and away from walls. A rocket mass heater is an advanced wood-burning design that burns wood at extremely high temperatures, achieving combustion efficiencies far beyond a conventional fireplace, producing almost no visible smoke, requiring much less wood than standard stoves, and releasing heat slowly through a thermal mass of brick or stone over many hours after the fire has gone out. Item number 23 is the one most people are not talking about, and it is a community network, which costs nothing, weighs nothing, and cannot be bought at any price after a crisis begins, because the single most documented predictor of survival and resilience in supply chain disruptions and energy crises across history has not been money or gear, but the density and quality of your local relationships. The cost of unpreparedness is potentially devastating, and by taking steps now to secure food, water, power, and financial resilience, you are not engaging in fear-mongering, but practicing rational self-reliance. Because in an era of instability, the most practical action is to ensure that whatever happens, your household can remain secure, informed, and functional. A community network means knowing your neighbors well enough to share a generator, trade a skill, borrow a tool, split a bulk purchase of fuel or food, or pool your resources in a coordinated way. And history shows that communities that organized early, shared strategically, and communicated honestly always outlasted those where every household tried to go it completely alone. The impacts of the current conflict include acute supply shortages and rises in the cost of fuel, leading to inflation, and heightened risks of stagflation and recession. And none of that is resolved quickly, and none of it will be reversed by waiting. But every single item on this list is available to you right now, today, before the next price jump. It is likely that the world will see elevated oil and gas prices for a long time, and the long history of global fossil fuel instabilities, especially over the past 5 years, has demonstrated the value of domestic energy security. So let us chain these 23 items together one final time in their full logical sequence, because seeing the whole chain is what makes this real. Because you start with your jerry cans and stabilizer to buy and preserve fuel now at today's price, and while those cans protect your fuel supply, your dual fuel generator converts that fuel into electricity on demand, and while your generator is your heavy power backup, your solar generator and panels are providing daily electricity at zero cost and zero fuel burn. One of the most important concepts in layered preparedness is having gear with multi-fuel capability, following the principle that 2 is 1 and 1 is none, and a dual fuel generator combined with propane lamps, heaters, and cook stoves creates a genuinely redundant energy ecosystem. While your electric systems handle your digital and appliance needs, your propane stove handles cooking, your kerosene heater and lanterns handle light and warmth in a grid-down scenario, your wood gasifier handles the possibility that both propane and kerosene become scarce, and your rocket mass heater and firewood handle the deepest, longest duration heating need of all. While your energy systems are layered and protected, your water systems are equally secured by your hand pump filter pulling from safe sources and your rainwater harvesting system collecting free water from above, meaning you have water independence from both the sky and the earth simultaneously. Food supply disruptions are expected to continue into 2026, driven by climate stress and supply chain delays, and power reliability remains uncertain as grids face higher demand and extreme weather, which is exactly why your freeze-dried meals, your bulk food stockpile, your seed bank, and your composting system form an unbroken food security chain that runs from immediate hunger satisfaction all the way to long-term food production on your own soil. Preparedness compounds, and every step reduces stress, increases confidence, and builds independence, because the goal is not to survive the end of the world, but to live well when the world becomes inconvenient. The de facto closure of the Strait of Hormuz and damage to regional infrastructure have produced the largest disruption to the global oil market in its history. And the people who knew this was coming, who built their systems early, who stocked their jerry cans and charged their solar stations and filled their pantries before the panic, those are the people who are right now watching the crisis unfold with calm rather than dread. Prepping in 2026 is not about fear, it is about freedom. The freedom to withstand disruptions, the freedom to protect your family, and the freedom to remain steady when the world goes unstable. The fuel crisis is real, the disruption is verified, the price trajectory is documented, and the window to act before things get worse is measured not in months, but in days. So the only question left is whether you're going to be the person who watched and waited, or the person who acted and prepared. Sometimes the greatest technology is not the newest invention, but the rediscovered wisdom of people who already lived through what we are only beginning to face. And they made it. Not because they were luckier or richer, but because they understood something simple that this list has just handed back to you. And that is this: the person who controls their own energy, water, food, and community is the person the market can never control.